The Mueller investigation has a name. Also, we'll discuss the illusion of collusion. What has the Department of Justice, the FBI, and all the other intelligence agencies involved in this Russian collusion story? What have they done, and what lengths have they went to frame the Trump campaign? Also, the DOJ stonewalling. Jim Jordan, Ron DeSantis, and Mark Meadows, they're fed up with it. They've officially requested President Trump's help. That and much more this morning on the Truth Hour.
Something really wrong is going on.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on?
I want the truth.
Good morning, Truth Hour audience. You're on the Truth Hour radio program, my weekly podcast here on Facebook Live. My name is Shane Jameson. I come to you live every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Pittsburgh, PA. I'm grateful for you being on today. Looks like I've got a few people on. Jaime, welcome, sir, to you. You're bright and early. Welcome for being on. Carl, good to see you, sir. Long time, my friend. Haven't spoke to you in 25 years, man. There in the great state of Texas. Thanks for being on today, guys. The Truth Hour radio program where we discuss the week's hot topics politically, dive in and unpack various topics, shed some truth and light onto a lot of the hearsay and a lot of what the swamp is trying to push out of D.C. Try to do this and champion my conservative values. Also, last but not least, by any means, do this under my banner of faith in my walk with Christ. So, I welcome each and every one of you today to this episode of the Truth Hour. Welcome, Sherry. Good to see you on this morning. Your son was just in, and we just chatted. So thank you for being on, Sherry. Appreciate you guys. If you would do me a huge favor, I ask this at the beginning of every show. Please like and share this to your wall at this time. Just hit the share button, or if you'd like to post something with the share, write in a small caption and then click share. That would be fine as well. But either way, please share it. What I'm finding as the weeks go by is that my show is getting a lot of traction because of your efforts. And I do appreciate and I do need those efforts on your behalf to share it to your wall, because not only am I reaching a significant portion of my friend base here on my wall, but I'm getting that second, third, fourth generation likes and shares possibly from people that don't even know me if you share it. So please share it now, and feel free to write a comment if you'd like. Also, so guys, another jam-packed week here on the Truth Hour radio program. Good morning to my Aunt Ellen there in West Texas in Lubbock. I'm quite sure the wind will be blowing there. In fact, a better question is not if the wind blows in Lubbock. A better question is when doesn't it? So, good to see you, Ellen, and love you very much, and appreciate you guys being on. So let's get started this morning. We have an amazing week of political insight here to discuss this morning. Coming off of a historic week last week, I think we touched base there on that special edition of the Truth Hour that I did in my dining room. Last week, wasn't able to make it down and get this done properly like I am today, so made do with a dining room special session there at the Jameson residence in Bridgeville, PA. We had discussed Trump's momentous 48-hour period, and we'll recap, guys. One of the biggest that I can remember politically. I mean, Trump pulls us out of the Iran nuclear deal. The worst deal ever negotiated in human history, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, and factually based, not just opinions. Backs us out of that. Brings home 3 hostages from North Korea. Kim Jong-un released, and more importantly, didn't pay a dime for that. With strength and leadership, Trump secured 3 hostages from an evil regime that had basically no other choice. And we'll get into that further as we go into today's show, but Kim Jong-un is back to playing his antics again. It's only a week later. And, and everybody knew. I mean, it wasn't going to just be, like roses and sugar and spice and everything nice and, and a cherry on top. It just wasn't going to be. And we'll get into that in a minute. But, Kim Jong-un, he's back to playing his antics. He's back to playing his games. And, guys, if I'm slurring a little bit and I don't pronounce all of my terms and my words to the best of my ability, it is because yesterday I got braces put on. So, yes, I have braces on today, and my face feels like somebody beat me with a 2x4, and my like a numbing feeling in my upper jaw. So and on top of that, I have less real estate for my lips to close. Go figure, right? So, like, I'm good at yapping and good at rambling, but I can't even pronounce my name properly. So today's show is going to sound like I'm on Benadryl times 10 or something. So work with me, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't make fun of me because I got braces put on at 44. It's never too late. It's never too late. I've got a train wreck in my mouth, and I'm trying to unwreck it. Don't be a hater. So, anyways, so we talked about that last week. Trump's momentous week, guys. I mean, as a conservative, I mean, you can't hit it out of the park on a weekly basis like that. I mean, Trump's done more. He did more in 48 hours than a lot of presidents get done in a year, 2 years, a term. So, I mean, the Trump train continues to roll on. I mean, the Heritage Foundation, they came out, and they had this agenda for a conservative president. And, this was probably 2 or 3 months ago. He was already at 68 to 70% of what his agenda was going to be for a first-term president. He'd already accomplished that. So you had another 48 hours, stupendous 48 hours of backing America out of, and once again, a deal that was not ratified. It was a treaty that was not ratified. It was not constitutionally signed. And get this, Iran never put ink to paper and actually acknowledged it or signed it either. So all the people on the left and all the the far left-leaning media and all the players out there that think that is somehow some kind of an atrocity that we've backed out of, and all the other world leaders, mind you, our allies, many of which, that think that we've done this huge atrocity. They need to actually go look at exactly what the joke of the deal was that Obama signed in or Obama put into place in the first place. It was never ratified. Okay? Constitution dictates that. It was never signed by the Iranians. So if you add those two things together, no ratification, no Iranian signature, and then if you've got an equal sign, at the other end of that equals toilet paper. That's what that is. So I don't really care what anybody says or thinks. That deal was dead on arrival, and it never had any chance of getting off the ground. Welcome, Loretta. Welcome, is that Jaime? And a few other people there. Guys, thanks for being on. Truth Hour radio program come to you live every Thursday morning here in Pittsburgh, PA. Political insight and a slice of faith, bannered under my Christian walk and my salvation in Christ. So, welcome to you. Please like and share this. If you're landing on my page for the first time and you have not been a part of this, you find any relevance here, please like and share it. I'm trying to grow my audience. Thanks so much. So, we're recapping the last week's stupendous, momentous, and just awesome 48 hours. Basically 24, extended into 36 to 48, but we'll call it 48. The release of the hostages, the Iran nuclear deal was scrapped, all in that same time frame. I mean, world couldn't be better. Fast forward to this week, we're right back to Russian collusion, and let's be exactly 100% poignant and direct when we discuss this. Here is the new Truth Hour term for this. I've had a lot in their mainstream assumptions as well, and I've pulled some of my sayings from the mainstream or from the like my conservative news outlets, and I've used them like witch hunt, a lot of this stuff. But here is the new one, and it is absolutely 100% factual. This has been nothing but an illusion of collusion. And where I'm going with that is, and we'll dive into that over today's show in the next coming weeks. And welcome, Amanda. Looks like you're on too. Truth Hour radio program. Thank you for being on. Is to what extent the DOJ, the FBI, the Obama administration in general went to undermine this president and this presidency, and then candidate Trump, okay, before he actually was sworn in. Hey guys, did you know that this operation, and it's an operation to undermine and be a detriment to this presidency and then candidate Trump, did you know that this was given an official operation status? I learned this yesterday. It's called Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Proudly designated that by the FBI and the DOJ. This just is unbelievable, guys, that this is the way that this is. This was set into place, and there's a lot of moving parts that are happening. Guys, there's another element of this. It's been disclosed that not only were they spying on the Trump campaign and then subsequently transitioning into the presidency, so they spied on candidate Trump. They have been spying on and were spying on President Trump, and that continues to this day. And that all started with fake, manipulated information through a dossier that went to a FISA court. Judges were lied to obtain warrants to further spy on underlings or low-lying fruit of the campaign, such as Carter Page. Those places and those entities were used as ends to get to the ends justify the means, right? That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to get to Carter Page and a lot of these low-lying underlings, such as Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort. There's a few others that come to mind. But guys, another huge bombshell revelation, and it was made through testimony in a closed door session with one of the oversight committees, or with Glenn Simpson, the co-owner of Fusion GPS. He was quoted as saying months ago that there was a human source that Christopher Steele, the ex-British spy, ex-British spy, had confirmed to him that the FBI had another source. Well, what do you think source means? Source is a human source. Guys, that's fancy talk for spy. That's fancy talk for a mole. That's fancy talk for something a Tom Clancy book. Jason Bourne, right? That's the kind of stuff you go to the big screen and watch, and you don't ever think that's happening here. Guys, that's happening right now. It's been happening for the last 1.5 to 2 years. Our own intelligence agencies had pulled out all of the stops, every single stop they could. They had pulled out fake FISA. They'd gotten and obtained illegally, mind you, with conjured up fake information, doctored up into official FBI documents. Walked down in front of FISA court, lied to judges, didn't have full disclosure on how they obtained these things, didn't disclose that it was a politically paid dossier that was, opposition research is all it was, which basically equals at the end of that, it's hearsay. No court in history with full disclosure and knowledge would ever issue a warrant to the FBI or anybody for that matter, any law enforcement agency, to further spy on a campaign based on hearsay. Okay? They've got a mole had been working within the campaign or on the outskirts of the campaign, and even through the transition into when Trump became president, to further undermine and spy on the Trump campaign. I want you to let that sink in for a few minutes. I want you to let that sink in, just how big of an atrocity, how big of an infringement on yours and my rights that really is. Welcome, Blake. Good to see you, my friend. John Brennan, everybody else that's on today, thanks so much for being on the Truth Hour radio program, guys. Live here today in Pittsburgh, PA, every Thursday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for being on. Please like and share this. I bring political insight every week, the days and the weeks, political big hot topics, and also under the umbrella of my Christian faith. So thanks for being on, guys. I appreciate you guys. You're my audience. You're the reason I come out and do this every week, and I'm trying to grow my audience and grow my reach. So do me a huge favor, throw me on your wall, say something if you'd like, just get me out there. So we're recapping last week, the biggest week in modern history, release of 3 hostages from North Korea, didn't pay a single dime. Trump removes the United States from the worst negotiated deal in history in the Iran nuclear deal. And now we're fast forwarding now, front and center, the Russian collusion witch hunt joke of a Mueller investigation is front and center again, and the reason it is, there's a lot of pieces coming together. There's a congealing of information that's happening all at the same time, and some of the biggest stuff that's coming out, the Inspector General Horowitz, he's got a report coming out. Well, he's been working on a report for months, guys. That's an internal part of this. This is an internal job. This isn't, and Inspector General Horowitz was an Obama appointee. Okay? So all the patsies out there that want to blame and say that somehow when this report comes out and it's full disclosure and it's slam dunks, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Andrew McCabe, James Comey, probably Loretta Lynch, probably it goes into the Clintons and the cover-up on the email scandal. And probably, guys, I've been saying this whole corruption train, the 30,000-mile long length of this train that is the corruption train that was the Obama administration that set all of this into place, will come to a grinding halt at the doorstep of Barack Hussein Obama. I've been saying that for days. I've been saying that for weeks. I've been screaming it for months. So Inspector General Horowitz has been busy doing an internal review, and that report is in final draft. It's in final draft. It's basically been completed. That's a huge bombshell. Guys, you add that to the fact that that's fixing to be released. It's going to shed an immense amount of light and truth upon what's been happening. You then also have, coinciding at the same time, Jim Jordan, Ron DeSantis, Mark Meadows, officially sending documents to the White House, to the Oval Office, to President Trump, requesting him to all but circumvent Jeff Sessions because he is inept and inert. He won't do his job. He will not hold the Department of Justice to accountability. He is not allowing the oversight committees that have legal rights to the same information that the FBI and the DOJ are actually obstructing from and not acknowledging and not disclosing and turning over. So, they've been under subpoena for weeks, guys. They've been under subpoena. The House Oversight Committees, all these intelligence committees that have oversight jurisdiction to hold, the checks and balances, guys. The DOJ, the FBI, our intelligence agencies do have a checks and balance. Guess who that checks and balance is? It's the oversight committees. They have oversight responsibility and legal authority to put a size 12 in the backside of these agencies if they are getting out of line. And the only way to do that is through transparency and full disclosure, okay? And welcome to you, Lisa. Good to see you on. So under power of subpoena and threat of contempt of Rosenstein and others in the FBI and DOJ, guys, they're still stonewalling. We've been requesting upwards of 1.1 to 1.3 million documents that tie all the way back to Uranium One, that tie back to the cover-up and the exoneration before the investigation of Hillary Clinton and the email scandal, the genesis of this Trump witch hunt collusion joke, the origin papers, the memos that actually set this into place, the parameters from Rosenstein. All of this has been requested. It's all been ignored. They say they're going to give us something, they don't. Another week goes by. They say they're going to give us something, they finally do. It's 99% redacted. Another week goes by. Another month goes by. Nothing's happened. Nothing's disclosed. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what's happening. The DOJ, the Department of Justice, the FBI, the corrupt holdovers from the Obama administration, they've got one game plan. They know their back's up against it, and their last card they're trying to play. Hear me straight on this. The last card they're trying to play is their only card, and that is drag their feet, put cement boots on this investigation to try to find out and uncover this corruption until the midterms happen, hoping that they get the House and or the Senate back. And if that happens, this information that to date has come out, which is a Niagara Falls quantity of information, never would have came out if Hillary Clinton would have been elected. But two, since it is, they are praying on their knees every night, and mind you, to a God that isn't listening, because I'm sorry, you're not going to pray to the one and true living God for something evil, corrupt, and sinful and have that happen. It ain't happening. You can guarantee you they're begging and pleading and praying that the Dems win back the Senate, win back the House, the majority in the midterms, thereby all but basically extinguishing this huge grassroots uprising of this, guys. That's what's going on. Okay? Jack, good to see you, sir. Welcome. Hope you're feeling better, my friend. Hope Kelly's good. Give her my best. Appreciate you guys being on. Please like and share me. Like and share me now. Ain't Ellen, you better like and share me. Like and share me now. Doesn't matter if you're family or not. I will fly out to Lubbock. I will come see you. And after I give you a hug, I will scold on you for not sharing my Truth Hour radio program. So, yeah, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. That is the crux, guys. So what you got? You got Inspector General Horowitz's report. The draft is done. Months of an internal review is done. When that gets dropped, it's going to be an atomic bomb going off, guys, inside of D.C. It's going to coincide, guys. In once again, Inspector General Horowitz, he's an Obama appointee. This is not somebody that's a patsy for Trump. This guy, and from all intents and purposes, everybody that I've listened to or talked to and researched on, they're saying Horowitz is a straight up guy. He's going to shoot it straight. And but like Sean Hannity said last night, how are we supposed to trust anybody from the inside? How are we supposed to trust? Why are we going to trust why would we let the wolves rule over the hen house and watch over the hen house? Well, that's what's been happening. The hen house has been being watched by the very people that need to be investigated. So like I said, investigating the investigators is where this is at. Greg, welcome, sir. Thanks for being on the Truth Hour radio program. Please like and share this. You find some relevance, guys. Please chat in here if you got any suggestions, any comments. Be glad to get back to you. You can also reach me discreetly, truthourradio@gmail.com, truthourradio@gmail.com. You can also Facebook message me privately, or you can reach out to me on my cell. My cell number is listed on my account on Facebook. Be glad to actually talk with you or text with you there. So, yeah, so you got all this coinciding, guys. You got all of this. It's amazing. So, and now you got all these news agencies. You got all these news agencies like the Washington Times, all these corrupt, these biased left-wing news organizations, CNNs, the Washington Post, the Washington Times. They're all starting to do one thing. You're starting to hear some truth and relevance coming out of these papers, and one would start to think, oh man, look, they're turning the corner. They're doing so good. The New York Times. Oh my gosh, they're doing so good. You get some of these drips and drabbles of a reporter that's actually saying and speaking some truth, but there's only one thing that's wrong with that. There's an agenda behind it. They're saying that the train is coming to an end, and the very train that they've been on trying to sink this president is fixing to be proven exactly opposite of what they've said, and they're trying to be on the right side of history. That's all they're doing. So when you get a Washington Post or Washington Times come out and they say something along the lines that they're kind of going along with where this is actually going, it's for one reason. It's to make certain that they finally are kind of jettisoning the corruption and kind of they still have their foot in the door of the possibility that Trump is what they said he has been for the last 18 months. But they're also now starting to see that if they're going to have any kind of political future as a paper, as a news organization, that they're going to have to be on somewhat of the right side of this. So they're hedging their positions, which makes me sick. I would a whole lot more respect a person if they're flat out wrong, but they're going to stand on what they believe, than somebody that's flat out wrong that stands on both sides of the fence. You can't do that. We're called in Scripture, one side of the fence or the other. And like one of my preacher from my hometown there in Stephenville, Texas, used to say, the late David Harris, God rest his soul, what a great man. Passed away of cancer here a year or two back. But what he used to always say, when people make a decision about sin, and they have an indecision about sin, and they just say, well, I just don't know. Well, that is a decision, and if you think you're going to ride the fence because you don't want to come down on either side of a subject or a principle or the truth, it is a decision, and guess what? If you're on the fence, the devil owns the fence. The devil owns the fence. So, there's truth, and then there's not truth. There's light, and then there's darkness. There's right, and then there's wrong. There is no gray area, guys. I'm just sick of this. So these agencies, they come out and they think that they're going to hedge their position. They're going to be on both sides of history here. You can't do that. They're going to do it, but they're still going to be diluted, and their credibility is all but shot because of it, right? So, yeah, today's whole show, guys, was 99% about this because, there's a lot of good to talk about, but while the left is pushing Stormy Daniels, and we can go into that too. Here's another question, and I don't have the attorney's name, and I should have researched this, but her attorney, Stormy Daniels, the former porn actress that has been disclosing been suing the Trump campaign or Donald Trump because of the fact of slander over a non-disclosure agreement and Michael Cohen payment of $130,000, which is basically a non-disclosure payment. It's basically, take this money. If you agreed to take it and sign this contract or this affidavit, you've agreed to shut up and not talk about it. Okay, well, now it's funny because now all of a sudden her attorneys come out. He's got special privileges to all these bank records that were Michael Cohen's. Well, that's funny. What happened about a month ago? You guys remember what happened about a month ago? Anybody else want to chime in here and help me out here? I'm trying to get you engaged. Oh, that's funny because the FBI knocked in 3 doors of Michael Cohen, 2 offices in one of his residence, and totally butchered and destroyed the attorney-client privilege. Do you remember that? Do you remember why they did that? It was all under the banner of a possible situation that had something to do with Stormy Daniels and a payment, and that it could have been a campaign finance violation. Well, then fast forward 2 or 3 weeks. What do you got going on then? Hey, morning, Aaron. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for being on today. So fast forward till today, and what do we have? Well, we got this attorney for Stormy Daniels. He's a nobody, but yet CNN, CNBC, CSNBC, all these other left-wing bias-leaning organizations, they've had this guy on there forever. What's his name? It's Michael Avenatti. Michael Avenatti. Yeah, the guy with his eyes really close together. Extremely close. The opposite of, Sid on Ice Age. Y'all ever watch Ice Age with Sid, the sloth? And like Sid's got eyes on both sides of his head. This guy's got the 180 of that. He's got eyes about an inch apart. So anyways, yeah, Avenatti's been going out, and he's having this full disclosure situation happen. He's having this full disclosure situation happen where he's acting as if he's got all this information that ties directly into what? The banking information in history and some of those ties, financial ties of Michael Cohen. Well, hold on. How did he get that? How did he get? And good points, John. Yeah. Michael Avenatti. Yeah, I needed that a while ago. And Jeff, good morning and blessings to you from Idaho. Awesome. Idaho. I think you're making history, Jeff. First Idahoan here, if that's how you say that. Thank you, sir, for being on. I appreciate you on the Truth Hour radio program this morning. Hope it's bright and beautiful where you're at, and I hope the Lord finds you blessed, you and your family. So we appreciate you guys. Like and share this, yeah, if you don't mind, and trying to grow my audience. So yeah, we're right in the middle of all this corruption, this that is the cesspool of the D.C. swamp and the holdovers of the Obama administration. So now we're talking about Avenatti. He's clearly the poster child now, the poster board child of the left's movement. But here's what's funny: they're going to discard him like they do everything else. I mean, it's the way the left does. I mean, they're going to discard, Stormy Daniels. They're pawns in a bigger game, guys. They're pawns in a bigger game, and if they can't connect the dots on something to get it to stick, they're going to be shooting them out the back door. I mean, not literally, but they're going to be, out the back door you go, right? So, I mean, this is no different. I mean, it's just a joke. And so, guys, I mean, ask yourself that, though. I mean, think about that. I mean, guys, we're talking about the FBI that is still questioned to have been a funding source for a British spy to obtain opposition research, which was the dirty dossier conjured up from like Russian oligarchs and other extremely poor sources that were nothing more than cherry-picked, junk and lies from a salacious tree of garbage that was then doctored up, given official status by the FBI to walk down in front of a FISA court, in front of a FISA judge, and lie about to obtain further warrants and extended warrants on Carter Page and other people like Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort, all the other situations. It's all a cesspool of lies. So then you fast forward to this, and you got this porn lawyer that's sitting there claiming to have all of this, which until about a month ago was nobody else had any access to it. And to this day, the only people that are known to have known access to Cohen's bank records and history and payment history was the FBI and the court system that just seized all of that. So tell me how the FBI and the courts and various judges have access to that, because his 2 offices, and one in Trump Tower and in a residence, were raided, and all of that was obtained. And now all of a sudden, some fly-by-night porn lawyer has access to all of that? You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like to me that somehow this information is being leaked. It's being leaked to Avenatti to then further pump out into the public square. It's being leaked. It's another example of the illusion of collusion. The FBI and the DOJ guys have spent 18 months going out planning, having seeds planted, planning people to get caught, entrapment, planning people to get entrapped, planning for people to be perjured, planning for people to lie, planning for people to have plausible deniability, planning and having just enough plausible deniability here that they don't have to have enough facts to prove it. Guys, that's the way they've constructed this big puzzle piece. How much, you know how many pieces it takes to put together what is legally represented as a plausible deniability of an assumption to move forward with a counterintelligence investigation into a then candidate Trump and now sitting president? Do you know what kind of bar has to be raised, or lowered in this case? Do you know what kind of standards have to be butchered or met to fall under that? Guys, that's what they've done. They've went out and planted stories. They've planted and had leaks. They've planted and had FBI informants, moles, and spies go out into the public realm through the Trump campaign, and now the Trump campaign pre-election, and now the Trump campaign post-election. They've went out and planted all these seeds of hearsay and deception, and let members of the Trump campaign pick up on those, and then when questioned in another setting, they're given different answers, and they're using that as a precursor to then further this illusion of collusion, guys. It's a self-perpetuating motion machine, and it's been set into place by the Mueller probe and by the cesspool of the D.C. swamp. That's exactly what this is. I mean, guys, and so now you've got, and then you've got the Ron DeSantis, the Jim Jordans, the Mark Meadows that are pushing Trump to do what he legally can. But everybody's like, well, exactly. If Trump can come out and sign something or make a phone call and go, you know what, it's my executive authority of the commander-in-chief of this country to basically order the DOJ, order Rosenstein, Christopher Wray, Rosenstein, all of these individuals to have full disclosure, to turn over unredacted copies, 1.1 million documents. He could do that today. You don't know why he's not doing it? Because the left in this country would then say, he's obstructing, he's diving into a campaign, he's influencing this, and it shouldn't be done. So you know what Trump's really wanting to have happen? He's wanting the current wills of justice. He's wanting the current wills and the current mechanisms that are built into this process to start working. That's what he wants. That's what he wants. And part of those wills are starting to happen. When you've got members such as Ron DeSantis, Jim Jordan, and Mark Meadows sending these they're really what they're trying to do by going to Trump and saying, you're going to have to circumvent Jeff Sessions because he's inept and he's not doing his job. That's a direct response to Jeff Sessions to get off his backside and do his job. By them circumventing him because he's not willing to engage, because he is so-called recused from anything Russia, which is another topic altogether. There are certain elements that he recused himself from. But guys, let's talk about it. It was all things Russian collusion / Trump campaign. Guess what? There has been nothing disclosed as far as the Trump campaign had anything to do with any Russian entities to overthrow the election. Okay? So if you're going to recuse yourself from anything that's tied to the original parameters of the Bob Mueller probe and the parameters outlined him to investigate within, you got a border over here, you got a border over here. You can't be going outside of that. What's hilarious is he has. Hey, Sherry, welcome to you. Good to see you. Thanks for being on this morning. Truth Hour Radio program. Hope everything's well with you and yours. So, yeah, so there's borders and parameters, and there's only one person that can expand or retract that border. Guess who it is? Rosenstein. Yet he hasn't fully disclosed. And DeSantis and Jordan and Meadows and Nunes, they've all been requesting this Genesis memo. Where is the Genesis parameter memo at? Where is it at? Well, they won't disclose it because they say that'll give up sources and methods. That's funny, because the sources and methods, the source is the FBI. The method is corruption. There's your sources and methods. That's what they're trying to hide. That has nothing to do with protecting national security. It has nothing to do with protecting a source or an interest or lives being on the line. Let me tell you, the only lives that are on the line, the only lives and the only butts that are on the line if full disclosure is made, which it's going to be, are the very people that are trying to obstruct and prevent this from happening. The Rosensteins, the Christopher Wrays, the Andrew McCabe's, the Comeys. Those are the people's butts that are on the line. Those are the sources and the methods. The sources are the FBI. The sources are the DOJ. The sources are the Obama administration. The sources are Obama. The sources are the Clintons. The sources are Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder. Those are the sources. Guess what the methods are? The methods were taking the Constitution, wadding it up and throwing it into trash and deciding at any cost to undermine and destroy this presidency. There's your methods. And they do not want that to see the light of day. That's the point here, guys. And once again, here's another part of that. So if for some reason you got the Inspector General's report coming out, if that hits the press, that comes out, and then if you've got the president, if he was willing to step up there and instruct the DOJ and the FBI to have full disclosure and to release these 1.1 million documents, guess what it's going to do? Because all of a sudden the next question comes up. How are we supposed to entrust Inspector General Horowitz? I don't know him from Adam. We just went through this. He's an Obama appointee. But if you have that report come out, and then you also have Trump basically instructing these entities to have full disclosure, and you have 1.1 million documents flood out, then all of a sudden you've got a case of contrast or the ability to verify. So if you've got 1.1 million documents that are proof of what actually happened, and then you've got an Inspector General's report in Horowitz that comes out that says this is what's happened, and you can then look over at said documents that are proof of what either happened or didn't happen, and you can cross-reference that, you then all of a sudden can 100% confirm whether or not Horowitz was in the bag for Mueller, or if he was 100% doing what the country would have him do as a patriot. Okay? So, God willing, all of this comes out at the same time. I would love for President Trump to do that, and I don't care what the political fallout is. I think there's enough disclosure here and enough information that he could do that, and it's so blatantly obvious that the cards in the deck were stacked against him that there would be no fallout politically. Come hell or high water, I don't care what the left would be screaming, top of their lungs. Look, he obstructed and he influenced an ongoing investigation. Really? That's hilarious, because then you'd have Inspector Horowitz's report that says just the opposite, and then you would have the authority of all these documents to get released that clearly say just the opposite. And it would clearly shut down the left's screams of obstruction and influence. So, that's kind of where we're at. Man, I've rambled here for about 38 minutes, and I still got 20 more to go. So, anyways, guys, I don't know what else we even had pull up. Oh, here's another one. Another whole part of this scenario. If you remember a few months ago, out of a pure desperation act on Mueller's part, Rosenstein steps up and said they indicted X amount of Russians, Russian entities, Russian companies here in the States, Russians over in Russia, Russian companies in Russia. You remember that? You don't hear what's funny? He never thought a single one of those would come back to the States and contest it. So not only did that happen, so last week they actually had one of these entities or companies that Bob Mueller indicted. When you indict somebody, you're supposedly declaring at that point that you've got evidence against them that you could produce in a court of law. Well, said company or entity shows up in the court that it was filed and is now demanding Bob Mueller disclose said information that he is saying that he is going to be holding against these people, and to basically justify this indictment. Do you know? And guess what? His attorneys are caught flat-footed, don't have any information. You don't know why they don't have any information on the indictment that they have on this Russian entity? On one of the occasions, the company he indicted doesn't even exist. One of the companies named in one of the indictments in recent weeks and months to tie into this Russian collusion joke of a hoax doesn't even exist. And then one of them shows up in court, obviously wrongfully accused, demanding, because you have a right to face your accusers and you have a right to see the evidence against you, and Mueller has none. I mean, are you kidding me? You can't write this stuff any better. So the United States government, FBI, Special Counsel Mueller, just started, I guess, like a doctor would prescriptions. Oh, you don't feel well? Here's some Percocet or some amoxicillin. Just like a doctor would throw prescriptions around because they can and they don't think it matters. So I guess Bob Mueller thinks he's got a prescription pad here for legality, and he's just going to write up indictments and throw them around like there's no repercussions. And you know why he did that? Because he knew there was no way in HELL that somebody would come back to the United States and contest it. So amazing that somebody came back to the United States and contested it. So amazing. And then one of those companies did not even exist at the time that the indictment was handed down. Think about that for a minute. Welcome, David. Good to see you, sir. Truth Hour radio program here, live every Thursday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Out of the Berg. If I'm slurring, it's because I got braces on. I couldn't talk right when I didn't have braces on. So it doesn't really matter. Maybe this will actually help me with my speech and my grammar. I seriously doubt it. Yeah, so we can just go on and on about the Mueller investigation. What a joke. What an atrocity, guys. And there's a lot of laughing matter there. But let me tell you what, guys, at the end of the day, this is scary business. This is scary business. Guys, between the fact that they totally butchered the attorney-client privilege, knocked in Paul Manafort's doors at 3 a.m. in the morning, wife still in bed, guns drawn, knocked down Michael Cohen's 2 offices. One was in Trump Tower, knocked down his residence door. Early hours of one morning, wee hours of the morning. Totally butchered the attorney-client privilege. I could go on and on. Guys, our rights are being infringed upon. The Constitution of this United States is being infringed upon, is being butchered, is being diluted, is being, in a lot of ways, overthrown. There's a lot of this of our Constitution that has been all but just destroyed to get this done. Guys, the higher-ups and the holdovers from the Obama administration, they have sold out against this country. And they are shielding themselves against sources and methods and saying that all of this is privileged and that it should be redacted and undisclosed. But the oversight committees that are given privilege to this they have equal rights. They have equal legitimacy to the same information that Rosenstein is protecting and hiding. Devin Nunes, Jim Jordan, Ron DeSantis, Mark Meadows, these individuals have the right to see the unredacted versions of this information. And what's hilarious is every time they're finally given something that's redacted, and then they claim sources and methods could be compromised, and that's what's redacted, they then push a little harder. They get a same document back a few days or a few weeks later. Documents unredacted. Guess what was underneath the redaction? Embarrassing information that clearly showed that the FBI and the DOJ was trying to hide something that was embarrassing and exposing of them. That's the point. That's the whole point to this. They want to have immunity. They want to make sure that they are able to go around with total immunity and the full force of our intelligence agency and butcher the current president and his administration and anybody that has any ties to him. They want to do that, and they don't care what they leave in their wake. They don't care how much of the Constitution is left in tatters, and they don't care how many of your rights are thrown in the toilet and flushed down the drain. As long as they get rid of Trump, as long as they make your life miserable if you tie into him, and as long as they can accomplish their goal, they feel like the ends justify the means. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And I got to get a drink of water real quick. So, I appreciate you guys being on today. Had a pretty good audience going on. I appreciate you guys. Had 6, 7, 8 people on there at one time. That's really good for me. I'd end up with a lot of weekly views, a lot of organic views, people that have come to the, landed on my page after the fact. It's not usually a whole lot of people during the live because, one, I am, airing in the middle of a busy day, and I know you're working and busy, but a lot of people view my show after hours, and I end up with, literally 100, 150, 200 views. So thank you guys for being on. Thank you so much for sharing this content with your wall and those around you, your loved ones, your friends. Thank you so much, guys. What y'all do for me is truly awesome and needed, and I want you to know that it doesn't go unnoticed, and I do appreciate, one, your audience, you being an audience for me, your insight, your feedback, but also thank you for being a platform to help me get out there to other people. Thank you very much. Yeah, and usually, guys, I typically have a faith segment. This week was different. I didn't have a whole lot to go on that tied straight in, and good to see you, Shane. Mr. Reed, good to see you, sir. Truth Hour Radio program here. In the last few minutes of it, I got about 15 minutes, we have been over a lot of information, recapped last week's information, some momentous 48 hours. We have recapped the fallout from... Oh, yeah, and I forgot to even mention that, but the fallout from pulling the United States out of the Iran nuclear deal, the release of 3 U.S. People from the North Korea, 3 U.S. hostages there, didn't pay a single dime for that, and last but not least, guys, I hadn't even talked much about it, but the fact that for the first time, a U.S. embassy in Jerusalem, acknowledging Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Guys, historic. I watched that. I listened to Jared Kushner give that keynote address. I listened to his wife, Miss Trump, there give the unveiling, I believe, of the embassy seal. I just, guys, and then Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't know if you've ever listened to him. He came and addressed our Congress a few years back, right on the precipice of the Iran nuclear deal. Addressed Congress, and I remember getting chills up my spine. Hair on the back of my neck stood up. Just awesome. That guy just sends patriotic waves of enthusiasm through your body. And to hear him talking during that unveiling and the recognition of the official opening of the U.S. Embassy there in Israel was just an amazing day. Nobody was more excited than him. I mean, he was just amazingly just up. I mean, he's always upbeat. He's always full of inspiration. He's always principled, ethical, moral. He commands leadership. He doesn't demand it. He commands it. He's just a true man of strength, and it's just awesome to watch. So that was truly awesome. And then there was huge riots that were incited by Hamas, upwards of 50 to 60. I think the death toll is still rising. I'm sure they're still protesting over there. Hamas spread a bunch of false information to a lot of the local, I think, Palestinians, and said, hey, the borders are porous here at this one area, and they were already going to do some uprising and protest anyways, just to show they were disgruntled and displeased with the fact that we're having an embassy there, and that we're confirming that that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. And so these people throwing rocks and bottles and Molotov cocktails, they rush the border, and Israel lights them up. And there was 50, 60 people killed in 24 hours. I mean, it was horrible. But guess who the mainstream media is blaming that on? They're blaming Trump for that. They're blaming Trump. As we are there during the ceremony, a historic ceremony, of which not a single Democrat decided to attend that ceremony. I want you to let that sink in. Not a single Democrat, not a single United States Democrat made the journey to be in Jerusalem at the opening of the United States Embassy on one of the most historic days of all time. Not a single Democrat decided to be there. They are the obstructionist party. They are the obstructionists. They didn't vote for you to save more money. They did not vote for the tax reform bill that Trump put out. They did not vote to put more money back in your pocket. They did not vote in support having our embassy in the capital of Israel, in Jerusalem. They did not support and be there for that. Instead, they're standing on the backgrounds, guys. They're standing in the backgrounds, and they are screaming that Trump is inciting violence around the world, all along while Kim Jong-un is fixing to be in a summit to sit down at a table and discuss denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. All along while, acknowledging where our embassy should have been all along while securing the release of 3 hostages from North Korea. I mean, there's no this man could cure cancer tomorrow, could cure diabetes, could cure all diseases tomorrow, somehow miraculously do that. This man would still be hated, he would still be reviled, and he would still be rejected. I just find that absolutely horrible. So, you guys hang in there, and we'll definitely, this next week's going to be even bigger, guys. I think possibly the IG report will come out, the Inspector General. There's more talk of the spy, the human source that was used by the FBI to get this whole ball started. Is the initials of this individual is well known. I think the name of that individual will probably come out today or sometime this week. We will be talking about that front and center on next week's show, and keep up to speed with me on Facebook. I love to keep relevant information flowing politically and conservatively, and also faith-based. So, once again, guys, politics aside, the biggest fight in your life will not be what side of the political aisle that you show up on. The biggest fight in your life will be determining where your soul spends eternity. I love to finish out the Truth Hour with some truth, with some facts, in addition to politics, and this trumps that. Your soul's salvation is the most important thing on a daily basis in your life. The world can literally be falling down around you, and it probably will before it's all said and done. And it won't matter as long as your soul is secure in Christ. If you have the security of knowing that you have been saved by Christ's blood, you've been baptized in that watery grave of baptism, you've been raised up out of that watery grave to have your sins washed away, you're a new child of God, a new creation in Christ. If you've had that done, then there is nothing the world can throw at you that will ever truly hurt you in the way that Christ's message means. Not physically. We can be slaughtered all day long for Christ. We can be martyred all day long for Christ. We can go like a lamb to slaughter for Christ all day long. It happened through biblical times. It happens to this day. Christians are being persecuted around the world, being slaughtered for their faith. But it doesn't matter. We all have an appointment to die. But our soul's salvation is what matters. So, God does not guarantee you, Christ does not guarantee you, Scripture does not guarantee you a peaceful life here on this earth inside of Christ. Doesn't. What Scripture does guarantee you, though, is that inside of Christ, you will have eternity with Christ when this world is ended. You will have eternity with, God the Father in heaven and Christ when this world is ended. It does not guarantee you a peaceful trip down memory lane here in this life. It does not guarantee you prosperity, wealth. It doesn't even guarantee you health. It doesn't guarantee you anything. In fact, if you are a Christian and you are truly trying to walk a Christ-like life, you're probably already catching flack. You're probably already being being persecuted. You're probably already having possibly family members reject you, co-workers reject you, maybe a loss of work or loss of income. Maybe you're shunned in some form or fashion, just like Paul was when he converted from the staunchest advocate against Christ, and he was baptized, and he became the staunchest advocate for Christ, right? He was shunned. He was stoned. He was left for dead. Those around him abandoned him in a lot of aspects. He had a core few people that stayed around him, stayed with him, but the world as a whole crumbled around him. And he preached Christ to the synagogues, and to the masses until the day he died. He was a champion for Christ. So, you're not guaranteed anything that the world can give you. You're guaranteed what Christ can give you eternally. And it's where your soul's salvation ends up. It's where your soul ends up. And guys, you only can make that decision while you're alive. And the fact is, you don't know when your last breath is. You don't know when your last day is. You don't know. If you have not accepted Christ before you take your last breath, it's too late. You have to be able to accept Christ, acknowledge that Christ is the Son of the one and true living God, be saved by having your sins washed away in that watery grave of baptism, coming up out of that a new creation, a new child of God. You have to have that done before you pass away out of this life into the next. There's no other time, okay? And I say this every week, guys. I'd be glad to help connect those dots for you. I don't care if you hear or learn anything from me, if you didn't hear a single thing I said in 56 minutes of this show. But if you heard something from me that has to do with your soul salvation and it pricked your heart, then I've done something. I don't care if you grow closer to conservatism. I don't care if you grow further away from socialism. I don't care if you grow closer to Trump. I don't care if you grow further away from the corruption in D.C. I care, at the end of the day, if you grow closer to Christ. All the rest is irrelevant. So always remember that. Where your soul spends eternity is the biggest decision of your life. Will be the biggest choice you ever make, will be the best relationship and fellowship you'll ever have if you choose to accept Christ, have a relationship with Christ, have a Christ-like life to the best of your ability, die inside of Christ. That is the best thing that I could hope for you. I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. But with Christ's love, I think that all but answers everything, guys. You need Christ in your life. You need His love. You need His blessings. You need His favor, His abundance. So, we are approaching here the end of another amazing episode of the Truth Hour radio program. You guys have been awesome. I almost said awful. That's because my braces are like all slurring everything. You guys have been awesome. I appreciate you being my audience week in and week out, for carving out an hour of your time for me. I would ask that you would spread this onto your wall, share this, like this, leave any comments you'd like, guys. If you have any prayer requests, feel free to light me up on the chat bar. You can instant message me there. You can Facebook message me or reach out to me actually on my cell phone. I'd be glad to pray for you. Let me know what your problems are, any concerns, any petitions you might have. And I could also help you get to Christ. So if I can help you in any way, if I can help you connect the dots with Christ, help you any way I can, guys. Like Paul was. He was a servant to many so that he could win more souls to Christ through the Great Commission. That's my goal. So, thank you so much for another great week. Thanks for another great show. And we will see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Stay real. Stay in Christ. If you're not in there, I can help you get there. God bless. We'll see you next week.
Something really wrong is going on.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on?